In the previous chapter, we learned how Ajax works on the browser or client side. In this chapter, we'll be looking at how the server receives and responds to Ajax requests, and we'll begin by learning how to write code which can detect an Ajax request. When Ajax code requests a URL, it's going to hit a PHP page on the web server which can respond to the request. And we have the ability to write that PHP page in two different ways. The page could assume that all requests that come into that page are always going to be from Ajax. That's the simplest thing, right? We just say this page is only going to be accessed by Ajax, and we can assume that from the start. More often though, I think you're going to want to have your page detect whether or not the request was Ajax. That way we have the ability to handle regular requests and Ajax requests differently. It might be that we only want to respond to Ajax requests, and if it's a regular request, we'll just do nothing. Or maybe the regular request should return a full HTML page, while the Ajax request should return a partial page, or maybe it should return JSON data instead. You get the idea. But here's the problem. A regular request and an Ajax request look the same to the web server. A GET request to a URL is simply a GET request to a URL. There's no additional data being sent to identify it as having originated with Ajax. But fortunately, we can add that additional data so that we can identify it. And we can do that by adding a request header. We'll add information to the request header specifically for the value of x-requested-with. Here's how you do it. In our JavaScript code, we're going to take our XHR object, and before we actually send the request, we're going to set the request header to be x-requested-with a value, a string that we're going to provide, telling it what it was requested with. You could use absolutely any string you want here. You could put Ajax, for example. However, the convention has become to use XML HTTP request. And that makes sense. That's what we are requesting it with. We're requesting it with that object. And many frameworks, such as jQuery, do this process for you automatically. So if you do it the same way, you're going to be following the common convention. Then, in our PHP code, we have the ability to find that value inside PHP's server variables. It'll be located as HTTP_x_requested_with. You can see here I've got a PHP function called isAjaxRequest that checks for that value. It checks to see is it set and has it been set to XML HTTP request. If it is, then this function will return true, and we'll know it is an Ajax request. If either of one of those conditions is not met, it will return false. Then we can use it inside a conditional. If isAjaxRequest, then we can echo back an Ajax response. If it's not an Ajax request, then we'll echo back a non-Ajax response. You get the idea. One footnote to this though, these header values are not secure. That is that they can be spoofed. So rely on them as a convenience, but don't ever count on them as a way to prevent users from making different kinds of requests. They can still spoof the system if they wanted to. To recap, regular and Ajax requests look the same to the server, but we can add data to the request headers of our Ajax requests so that then our PHP code can tell the difference.